Sounds promising. Great. So, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. I'm here in Fiji at the moment, and as I said, it's not actually that warm up here. In fact, it's kind of the weather's been terrible, but we won't tell everyone that's coming next year that it's going to be much better next time, isn't it? But hopefully, everyone else out there is having a good time. Are you back in New Zealand now, Tony, as well?
Oh, yes, I am. And I can tell you this much that a bad day in Fiji is better than a good day in winter in Auckland.
You're probably right. You're probably right. Reality check.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
exactly. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. And thank you very much to Tony for helping or for offering to come along and do this session. I've been loving using my tablet, but I'm sure that I haven't been using it to the best of its ability. So, I asked Tony if he wouldn't mind coming online and doing this talk for us so that we could all learn about some of the other features that
Nice.
it can use, that it can do. And so we can all learn a little bit more about our tablets. And for those of you who don't have one yet, you can learn about what it's all about and how it can help you for your navigating in the Pacific as well in future. And yeah, so Tony, you've been on the rally with us for 3 seasons now, I think, haven't
Yeah,
you, in
three, three,
developing it?
3 years in a row.
3 years in a row, which is awesome. And
And my boat hasn't left the Pacific.
I know, isn't that fantastic? And I just have been so impressed with how you've developed all this amazing software for us, from a first-hand basis. You're a real Pacific cruiser that's out there doing it and literally developing all these tools on the go to help everyone, make their passages and cruising easier. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to you for everything that you've done.
Pleasure.
It's been fascinating following along your progress in this project and being able to kind of connect you and everyone else along the way. So uh, yeah, it's been lots of fun. So thanks again for coming along. I'll hand over.
All right, excellent. No, it's a pleasure, Vicky. What I'm going to do, let me just share a screen, making sure it's the right one. All right. I'm hoping you can see my screen.
Yeah, I've got Finding Your Way, Chart Satellites and Safe Anchoring.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Perfect.
So as Vicky said, I joined a wonderful rally back in the early days of 24. Took our boat up to Fiji on the rally directly, Sabu Sabu, and we were supposed to just be up there for a year, but the year became 2 years, became 3 years, and our boat is still up in Numia, and I'll be joining her in a few weeks again. But yeah, I mean, to a large degree, this experience that we've had over the last couple of years has made Jackie and I realize how important being able to see beyond the charts actually is when you're up there. And just let me give that a click. There are a lot of people on this call that I guess are a fantastic mix of those general interest, and I'm assuming also that there are a number of people on this call that have got our Scout devices, and a lot of you that don't. And I'm not going. This isn't an advertorial. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight the importance of actually being able to see what's a couple of meters under the water in the Pacific, um, because things aren't always as they seem when you look at the charts. And I think this particular picture is my favorite spot in Fiji, and it's a spot that if you approached it from the wrong direction with the wrong tools, you could end up in a bad place. This picture on the left here, it's basically Navionics charts with waypoints charted coming down from the northwest, hooking around the bay, and waypoint 10 here is where you saw our boat anchored on that white sand. Um, but when you look at what the satellite imagery shows you for that exact bay, and that exact reef, by the time you would have got to waypoint 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, you'd have been well on the reef. So it really is important that whatever you're doing, whether you're using a phone, a tablet, a piece of software, that you make sure that you're always very aware of what's going on under the water. This is a picture I've used a couple of times because it's very close to home, I guess, for the rally. A vessel that came in from Tonga a couple of years back misjudged a couple of reefs. They were a boat that joined the rally from the east, coming across the Pacific, and it didn't end well for them. And every single year that we've been on the rally, we've heard of boats bumping into things, and sometimes the damage is slight, but sometimes the damage is quite terminal, like this instance here. What I'm going to start off is a little bit of history. Most of you guys will know this, I'm guessing. So the charts of the Pacific are based on the Admiralty charts, and this goes right back into the 1700s, where they were all hand-drawn, hand-measured with a lump of something on the end of a rope, and depth readings were taken and sightings were taken. I always have a giggle at this one on the right here, because this is one of the early maps of New Zealand. And according to this map, Stewart Island is joined to the mainland. And I think Littleton is an island off Christchurch. Luckily, things aren't quite as bad. As time continued, and in the 1990s, what they call the ENC charts and the electronic navigation charts became the way that we navigated. We started to use our paper charts less and less, and we relied more on the ENC charts, where they were using CMAP charts and avionics charts. However, these charts, these ENC charts, are based on the original Admiralty charts. And when you look at areas like Fiji, the first explorers came in there in the 1600s, but the Admiralty charts from Fiji that the current ENC charts are based on were from the late 1800s. Areas of Fiji that are used by commercial shipping have been surveyed more often and more frequently and more recently, because the cost of a commercial ship running aground basically makes the additional survey expenses worthwhile. And for Fiji to be able to bring large ships into Lautoka or around in other of the larger harbours around Fiji, they've done additional survey work there. But generally, the areas where us cruisers end up are overlooked, because there's not a lot of return on investment for any survey company that's going to go and survey those areas. So these are the current Admiralty charts, the paper charts of areas of Fiji. These, as I say, if you look at the people who are in Fiji at the moment or being there, will see this, recognise this area. This is Musket Cove on Malolo Island. The hotels are sort of around this area here, Roro Reef on the outside. And that's what you would have got from a paper chart. That's the same area with the current version of Navionics. Now, it's a standing joke that the green areas within the Musket Cove Bay area bear no resemblance whatsoever to what's actually there. I think at the beginning of the season, Vicky, you posted a fantastic picture of a track of your boat coming in there, literally going straight over the top of one of those green blobs. And we're very lucky these days that the Earth is being photographed by 1,000 different satellites at the moment. And that satellite imagery is getting better and better, and there are many different companies now producing that satellite imagery. Because one of the things I want to underline is that the importance of satellite imagery isn't just having it, it's having options around the satellite imagery. Because the satellite imagery is taken on a specific day, in a specific month, in a specific year by a specific company. And certain of the areas that we travel through on those days may have had cloud cover. They may have had wind on the water, where it's more difficult to see what's beneath the water. But generally, you need multiple sources of satellite imagery to be able to truly know, whether it's safe or not. Another example is back to the same Admiralty chart. This is the pass that comes out past the sandbank off Muscat. One of our favourite spots to anchor if the wind is looking like it's going to be still for the next day or two, which I believe it hasn't been recently, is a spot roughly out here, right on Roro Reef, where you can hear the waves breaking on the outer reef at night, but you anchor in a couple of meters of the stillest water over the whitest sand. So if you were going to come out through this channel, you'd come through here, and you really wouldn't know what was going on here until you look at the satellite imagery of that exactly the same spot. So right here in the center, there's Cloud 9 over there. It's an easy dinghy right away if you want to go and have a drink. But this spot of white sand over here is an absolutely amazing spot to spend a quiet, still evening. As I say, you get the sound of the waves breaking on the outer reef, and you got the proximity. You're 20 minutes, half an hour out of Muscat Cove. So very important that you're able to see what's there so you can enjoy what's there. Another example that I use quite a bit, and this is underlying the importance of multiple sources. This is Manor Island, which is slightly north of Muscat Cove. That's the Navionics chart of Manor Island. That's one of the satellite images that is commonly found online if you want to use it. And I would say that's a lot better than the island, the Navionics chart or the CMAT chart, much the same. So that's better than the charts. When you've got a choice of imagery, however, it makes all the difference. These are two of the same images from different satellite providers. On the one on the right here, that was obviously there was a lot of wind on the water. The direction of the sun depends on what time of day that photograph was taken. This next one, obviously a far better representation. And anybody who's been in here or anybody plans to come in here this or next year, absolute must. Coming in through this channel, very tight, couple of meters wide, and generally the anchoring is over here. Fantastic snorkeling and diving around these rocks. And anybody who's into scuba, some of the best scuba diving you'll do in Fiji is around what they call Supermarket Reef on the outside here. The local dive shop will take you out there if you want to. So getting in really close and having high resolution imagery that is clear for the areas that you're going to pass is absolutely critical. So even if you've got to use your phone or your iPad or whatever it is, make sure that you're able to see what you can see. Traditionally, and this is where we started many years ago, we used an app called OpenCPN. Fantastic piece of software. It's what they call an open source piece of software, which means that it's developed by a special interest group of people who are basically committed to producing the software for users at no cost. And this is their website, opencpn.org. You can download their app. They've got the app for Windows, Macintosh, Linux, Raspberry Pi, Android. You load that up, and basically you get a viewer with no content, no actual charts, no satellite imagery, nothing comes with the software. You open it up for the first time, and you end up with a blank screen. The best thing you can do then is head off to Bruce Ballin's Chart Locker. So Bruce, a fantastic individual who spent a huge amount of time amassing digital charts that he has scraped off various sites off the internet. And they're all zipped up, and you can go into the Chart Locker, and there's a place where every country has its downloads. So you can see here in terms of, Niue, Newcastle, Fiji, Cooks. Fiji, you've got each of the sources. So Arcgis is one of the satellite providers, Bing is one of the satellite providers, Google, Navionics, etc. These files are large. The whole of Fiji, I think, is around 15 gigs. And that's as what they call zip files, which are compressed files. You've got to download them onto your laptop or your PC. You've then got to unzip them, and you've got to structure them into a folder and then get them onto that OpenCPN setup. So that's one route to go. that's what you end up with. So what you're looking at there is that's the current version of OpenCPN on I think that's on a laptop. Yep, it's on a laptop with some of those charts of Fiji loaded. What we have done over the last year and a half is all our learnings from the time we spent in the Pacific, as Vicky mentioned earlier. We looked at the shortcomings of all the tools we had, and we kind of sat down a year and a bit ago and said, what would we have liked from the beginning when we set off? And earlier this year, we launched our Scout, which basically is a piece of hardware, which once again has been designed based on our learnings from a year and a bit in terms of the screen brightness, in terms of the anti-glare, the stability and strength of the GPS antenna on it, having some buttons that you can use, being able to read the screen when you got your Polaroid sunnies on, being able to use it when you've got wet fingers, and all the sorts of things that you don't think about when you go and grab a tablet from the local store. Totally waterproof in terms of splash resistance, and will take a jet of water. So in the cockpit, it can be secured near or around your chart plotter. We see this as a companion to your chart plotter at this stage. So on my yacht, I have one of these mounted directly above my chart plotter. So I've got all my instrumentation on what I need below. I glance up and I have all the satellite imagery I need to go where we need to go. So we see satellite imagery as the most important thing we do. And on the Scout, you've got be able to select multiple satellite images from different sources and suppliers. But we've kind of created what we sort of think of as being the Swiss Army knife of tools. So while it's the big blade, the one that you cut everything with, is the main thing you do, and that's our satellite imagery. The smaller things like the corkscrew and the Phillips screwdriver and the thing that gets pebbles out of horses' hooves and whatever else you got there are the smaller apps that we've developed as well. So we've got a really cool tide app. We've got a superb anchoring app, anchor alert app that allows you to put your satellite imagery underneath your boat, and you can see where your boat is floating and the depth dynamically. We've got NEMA dashboards, all sorts of bits and pieces, weather. And it's really as I said, the Swiss Army knife of devices. All the various apps that we scoured the internet for over the last couple of years, we kind of put in one place and made them all work together. So once you've set up your vessel description and the vessel setup here in terms of length and draft and all the other dimensions and the name and all the other things that are related to your vessel, all the apps draw off that same information. So it's a setup once and then use whichever tool in the toolkit you need to. One of the things that we learned from using OpenCPN for a number of years is that you've got to find the data on the internet somewhere to load onto it. And once you've loaded it on, it's on there, but nothing else is. So every time you move on to somewhere that you don't have the downloads for, you've got to go and find them. You've got to download them. You've got to do all sorts of things with them and get them onto the system. The Scout was designed as an online first device. So basically, the satellite providers that we have agreements with allow us full global access. So it doesn't matter where you are in the globe. If you've got your Scout with you and you turn it on, the satellite imagery comes up with that region, and you can zoom right down. I'll show you a little later on a Scout that I've got next to me here. You can get right down to zoom 18, 19, or 20 if it's available, which is literally seeing the crabs on the rocks. So it's as I say, we've really put a lot of effort into making sure that you can see what's there. You can download the imagery because we also accept that not everybody's in Starlink and with all the tricks and things that Starlink's up to at the moment with the plan changes and the various other things that they're introducing to make our life a little more difficult at the moment. Downloading is going to become very important. So while you've got internet, if you go ashore and go into a restaurant or go to anywhere where internet, hotels, what have you, you can download all the data you need while you're in there, and then you have that satellite imagery locally on the device as you're ongoing. We've got full AIS integration, so you see all your AIS targets. And I'll pick up some of this stuff once we get onto the demo. This is just a little bit more about the things, the anchor watch, the tides, and the navigation software. Right, so I think it's time that and I'd like this, if possible, to be as interactive as possible. I know you're putting questions in there. Maybe, Vicky, if you can just keep an eye out, if somebody puts in a question that's kind of related to something around what I'm doing, I'm more than happy to stop there and then and talk about it, rather than trying to remember to come back to it.
Okay.
So what we've got here, and I'm just going to pop out for a moment of there. This is when you turn your Scout on, this is what you got. Unfortunately, I'm in my home office where I don't have access to GPS or NEMA or anything. So unfortunately, I've got no data coming through. But this is the way that Scout works. These 4 apps on the left here are ours: the navigation, the True Helm, which is the NEMA dashboards, the Tide app, and the Anchor. And we've got a number of apps that we have curated to live on the right-hand side of the screen here. These are the default ones, Garmin, or otherwise known as Navionics. We've got the Victron Connect app here. So if you've got Victron Kit, you can connect to it to manage it. We've got Predict Wind and we've got Windy. Now, if you hold any one of these third-party apps down, if I'm going to press down and hold the Garmin app, you'll see a little menu has come up there. And these are all the apps that we have curated in terms of being able to actually run them on this device. So if you want to change, for example, the Garmin app to the Coast Guard app, you tap it, you've now got the Coast Guard app there. So you don't have access to all the apps on the Play Store because some of those apps don't play so well with navigation apps. Navigation apps don't like sharing GPSs and things like that. So we've got to check these apps out before we allow them on here. But there's a reasonable selection of apps. Let me just go and put that. We're going to put the Garmin app back on. In fact, tell you what, we'll put the CMAP back on, give them a plug for a change. Yeah, you can change those apps around and do what you need. There's a settings menu up top here where you can go and set your boat bits and pieces of information, all your registration information, as I say, your drafts and stuff, which get used in the Anchor Watch and what have you. But the main attraction on the Scout is the navigation app, and which is where we are here. So this, anybody who's a New Zealander will recognize Auckland, and you can pretty easily, on the top here where you see it says Google Hybrid, if I click on that menu, I can choose which overlay I want. So I can go to Bing, and we're now looking at the Bing satellite imagery. We can let's go to Esri. There's Esri there. There's another satellite provider. And you can see what I was saying earlier. Areas of this Esri map, you've got cloud coverage from that particular provider. And then one of my favorites is the Google Hybrid one, which is really, really good. And if we now zoom in to the noisies, you can see I'm zooming in, and the satellite imagery is coming through in real time. So if Google updated their satellite imagery yesterday or this morning, then as I'm zooming in here, it's basically loading the very latest imagery that I have available. And as I come in, down the bottom right here, you can see it says zoom 17.6. So that gives you an idea of the zoom level that you're looking at. Each level up that you go in zoom level is 4 times the resolution of the zoom level before it. So zoom level 18 is 4 times the resolution of 17, which is 4 times the resolution of 16. So that's very simple to use wherever you're going. Now, try and work out something. So One of the things that we're working with at the moment is we've had a lot of requests from users for charting information on here. And while we are a companion app, and at this stage we're not going to say, throw away your chart plotter. We now are testing out with a Canadian company the ENC charts. We've got the global ENC charts on here now. So as I slide the slider on the top here along, you'll see the ENC charts, that area will come in. So you'll get all your normal depths and anything you would normally get. And these are, say, the same base maps that Navionics and CMAP use as well. So if you want to come into an area and you want to have a blend, you want to kind of see a little bit of the satellite, you can change how much of the satellite you see and how much of the charts you see. So you can compare what the satellites are telling you, and you can compare what the charts are telling you, which we think is really useful. So I'm just going to go back to full-time charting. Full-time charting. So those of you that have got Scouts, if you've not discovered this particular new feature, which we've only really made available for the last week, and as I say, no guarantees it will stay there, but we think it will. It's under test at the moment, and the company we're working with has allowed us to provide it to our users to test with us. So if you go to the layers button on the left here, I press the second button down. There's a section here called base maps, and this is where, if you don't want to pull down and select from the base maps here, that's where you can see that. So down the bottom here, you'll see a thing that says Vortex Marine ENC. If I untick that, that little slider there went away. All right. If I tick it again, the slider is back. And while the slider is back, I can slide it and I can bring the ENC maps in and I can take them out again. Now, one thing I would call out, because we're testing, we are still finding areas of the world where they haven't loaded all the files yet for us. And unfortunately, Western Fiji is one of those areas. So Eastern Fiji is pretty well covered. If you're, around Ngawi, Tapanui, that whole area, the charting is pretty good. You go over to the western side and you want to go up the Asawas, the charts are less than good. But as I say, it's a work in progress, and we're slowly getting better and better coverage. New Zealand, the coverage is superb everywhere. Australia, it's superb everywhere, and most of the other areas. We're just finding holes that we're filling at the moment. So that's just a little heads up for those of you who are keen to try that. So another trick you could do.
Super cool, Tony. I've just got a couple of questions while you're at
Yeah,
there.
yeah, please.
So Andrews asks how does the satellite images and Scout measure the depth of any proposed passage of water? So I guess that sort of you can check your depths now by using that hybrid one, couldn't you?
You can do, but to be fair, most of the time that you're using satellite imagery, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come all the way out here, and I'm going to quickly travel to where Vicky is, and I'm going to zoom in around Sabu. In fact, I'll show you what. I know that Ollie, who is on this call, and I can see him there in the red dim of his light, uh, came up to Sabu, not to Sabu. He came up to Viani a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things, I think the sea was pretty nasty on the day he was there, and he would love to have come inside over here and then come down and through and without having to hit all the weather that you normally get as you come around this corner. And as you come in here, you'll find an area that is pretty dodgy. Now, if I go back to, let's go to Bing. So the Bing satellites are terrible for here. They're obviously taken on a really windy day with the sun in the wrong place. The Google satellite imagery is better, but I wouldn't really want to navigate through there on the Google stuff However, luckily, the Esri satellite imagery is actually pretty good for this area. So I would have, this is I'm going to just go in here. I'm going to turn that off for the moment so people can see. So from a depth point of view, if I go, the charts are pretty useless through here. The navionics charts are as useless through here in terms of depth. And most of the representations of these little rocks and reefs and outcrops are completely the wrong place. So if I were to come through here, what I would do is I would long press, I'd add a route, and then I would basically just keep in the deep water through here and up and out. And I would finish that. And that would be, so there it is there. Let me just edit that one. And what we quite like is that you can change the colorings of the backgrounds, because depending on what the turn that on, the background color is, if you're over a lot of light sand, different colors don't work. So we will always change the colors to make sure that you got good variation and we can pick out where you're going. So yep, you're not going to pick up depth through here, but you're going to pick up deep water, and you're going to know where not to go. I think that's more the case, Vic.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. Okay. Next question is uh is the ENC option available now? Which was yes, so I've just got it on mine, which is really cool. Um, anyone says, why can you zoom into 20? I get better images on
Yes.
Google Earth, NFL, and OpenCPN. Love everything else, but sometimes I want to see the rocks.
All right. So if we go, I tell you what, let's come out of here. Let's now, for none of the satellite providers provide Fiji to level 20.
Right.
That's their own prioritization. So even if you went to, you got your iPhone out or what have you, and you went to Google Maps or Bing or whatever, any of the map services, none of them provide you to level 20 in Fiji.
Right.
I'll show you what. So I always come back to this spot. I'm going to just go all satellite, take that out. And I'm going to come back to, this is, once again, you can see on Esri, they don't do this little piece particularly well, but luckily Google does. So if you go into here, so there's level, call it 15, just under 15. There's 15, 16, 17, 80, 17 and a half. What getting to 18 here, that's about as best you'll get in Fiji. And as I say, this is a passage I've done many times through here. And does anybody on the call know exactly how wide this is? I want to say 10 or 12 meters, maybe wider. No, the cats come through, so it's going to be wider. 15, 20 meters maybe wide. On the way through at low tide, you want to stick right in the center. And I get about, at low tide, I've been through here and had about 30 centimeters below the keel. But it's, that's 18 for you. If I come back to New Zealand, let's come back to New Zealand.
Do you have a measuring tool, Tony? Can you drop
Yeah, if you
that?
look, there is a measuring tool, but what I've been using is just looking at the scale on the side. Give me a second.
Yeah.
We'll come down all the way down back. There we go. See where I am in my office at home there, where my boat's parked up in Long Bay. New Zealand, the zoom is better. So if I come, noises is always good because some nice, actually, Turi is also pretty good. So there you've got 17, there you've got 18. Now we're getting into 19 and it's still getting clearer. So you can literally here see the shape of the trees and the shape of the what's
Yeah.
underneath there
Individual leaves on the trees.
pretty much. So if we just quickly shoot up, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but Turi is a great spot as well because there is a lot of very common, and you've got to be so careful when you come into Turi, especially if you're on the southern end of this bay, because I'll go very close to knocking my keel on that. Because if you look at the ENCs for here, so if we turn the ENC onto full, that's what you get from like Navionics or CMAP.
Wow.
And that's the reality of it. And this is one of the best spots for a Sunday or Saturday. And you can get right in here as well on there. So where there's 18 and a half zoom. Um, there are areas around the US, areas around Europe, they go up to 20 and beyond. You can actually see people sunbathing on the decks of the super yachts in Monaco
Bear
until
that in mind
until
before you take all your clothes off.
well, there are a couple of them that have been fuzzied out for that exact reason. All right. So now, say for example, are there any more questions specifically about Zoom and about choice of satellite imagery or ENCs and stuff?
Not at the moment, I don't think, but could you show us the measuring tool? Oh, Roger and Marion say it's 20 meters wide, that passage.
Oh, yeah, thought, okay, 20 meters.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh,
So
and Dave's asked about Apple images as well. Like he said that Apple images in Nevada look better than the
they
other
do.
images for this area.
They absolutely do. And I would strongly, if you're in a place like Nevada, we've looked at Nevada repeatedly. There's the Apple images are probably the best for that area. Unfortunately, Apple do not license their imagery to anybody
Right,
other than using it on Apple Maps. So I would say, regardless of what you're using, OpenCPN, a Scout, what have you, Apple Maps is a great resource all by itself.
right, cool. No, good to know.
So the one of the things I'd like to cover off was I think I'm not sure a lot of people actually do this. I know a lot of people do, but it's a very useful thing to do, especially if you are going to be entering a pass or going to be getting close to things that could bump you. And the weather may be a bit up, and there's a chance you may lose your live satellite link. What we'd strongly recommend is making use of the download feature. So on the left here, there is a little downward arrow, which is our downloading. If you click onto that and you then mark out an area by just clicking around the area you want. So I'm literally just clicking and I'm drawing wherever there's a dot, that means I've clicked my mouse. Well, you would just tap your finger on the screen, all right? And I would say finish here. And on the bottom now, it says to me, I'm going to download that area. I zoom 5 to 15. I'm actually going to bump that up to maybe 17. I don't want to take it too high because it might take a little long to download on this call. So basically, you've got 243 tiles. If you can read this on the bottom here, if your screen's not too small, 9 megs of data. And I can say go. And it's basically doing a quick estimate. And now the tiles are coming down 104, 4 seconds, 1 second, done. So now it's taken a section of that satellite image as it stands and it's saved it on the Scout. And you'll see these what we call pills down the bottom here. These are the downloads. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to pretend that we've now lost our Starlink. I'm going to put none on the base map. So right now, you've lost your Starlink, you've got no satellite feed. If I now click on these download um, buttons here, this is now working off what we call offline mode. So basically, you have the same level of detail, you have the same information, the same zoom information, but you no longer need to be online to be able to actually see this area. So that is one of our, what we believe is one of our strongest features, is that not only do we have the entire globe on here because it's all streamed in real time from the licensed suppliers of satellite imagery, but you can snip a piece of the Esri files and you can actually download them to the chart. Our plan is to try and work with as many satellite providers as there are, and there are new ones appearing every day. As I say, the space is becoming fuller and fuller with these satellites, and it's becoming far more options in terms of where we get our imagery from. And as we're able to negotiate new deals with new providers, the plan is to simply make them available through the system. If I come out of here and I go back, we suddenly the comes back online. We go back to Google. And there we go. We now got our satellite imagery back again, and we don't need take that off. And we now got that onto another one. So that's a super useful tool for people to remember how to use.
Can
Any
I just
questions
ask you
on
about,
download?
yes, charts for Indonesia, New Cal, Vanuatu, the whole globe is on there, right?
The whole globe. So I'll come out here, and we can shoot up to Newcal. There's Newcal. All right, and I'm going to go all the way in. All the way into Newcal, and I'm going to keep on going. And this is an area that I know very well because we spent about 7 months there. And right, I tell you, my boat is currently sitting in that empty slip right now. Um, so that gives you an idea in terms of it was that easy, just to suddenly be a Newcal. And if we were going out to La Signal or one of the islands out here, which are amazing to visit, I think far too many people head straight back to New Zealand from Fiji. You guys should get further west. But we're going to come out to one of these islands. There it is. I tell you what, I actually found this incredibly useful for is that we've got a mount on our tender, and I'm going to come here. I think it's here. I've got a mount on my tender, and we use the Scout on the tender to dodge the reefs when we come in to find a beach. Because you look at an island like this, you've got reefs all around there. You're coming in at water level on your tender at 20 knots on the plane. You don't see any of this, and when you get closer and you start to look for gaps, especially if the tide is low, and you can actually you can probably sneak in right through here, and that's why there's so many boats on the beach here at the moment because they all know where the channel is. These are all probably locals. But we find it incredibly useful on the tender when we're sort of trying to make land on a little island that we haven't been on before, just making sure that we're clear of the reefs. But yeah, global. I mean, we can come right out and we can shoot all the way. There's Tonga. So everybody who checked into Tonga will know exactly where we are.
Yep.
And you'll possibly have a very close relationship with this horrible rock wall over here. So yeah, and it's that easy. As I say, there's no when last year we were doing our Project X tablets, were basically just a tablet with from sepia on it. We were shipping out SD cards all over the world with updated charts on them to yachties all over the place, and people were paying $200, $300, $400 in DHL and what have you to get us to send them a package to Indonesia or to Europe or somewhere. And this is really what drove us to go, you really don't need to do that because with where things are going with modern technology, the satellite imagery is there, the suppliers are becoming more plentiful, the contracts that we're putting in place are getting better and better. So I'm just coming in here onto the French coastline. I'm not going to find to see.
So with it, how are we going to get on with all the Starlink stuff, Tony? Like without being
How
able
are we going to get
to.
along with it? Well, I don't know. Well, look, it might only be a temporary issue for a couple of reasons. Um, the Amazon Leo service currently has 240 odd satellites up in the sky, and they're going to start testing their service, which is a rival to service to Starlink, at the end of this year, at the end of 2026. And they licensed to launch another 3,000 satellites through 27. So it's very likely that during the course of 2027, there will be an alternative provider for the Pacific yachting community. And that will drive competition is very, very good for this industry. It's the reason that Elon Musk can do what he does is because he's got no competition. Once the competition starts arriving, he'll have to change because in order to actually get your business, the competition is going to have to be better than Starlink. And one of the ways it can be better than Starlink is offer us a comprehensive, cheaper service across the Pacific for yachties.
Yeah,
So I live in hope. We're actually, from a technology point, we're only moving forward. Um,
absolutely. And I think there's been something happen every year with like Starlink and comms and random stuff go on, and we seem to sort of adapt and get
yeah,
by with it. So
yeah.
I think we know
The
that we
first,
are very reliant on being online now with everything, aren't we?
Yeah, you'll remember, Vicky, I think it was like 18 months ago, Starlink sent out letters, emails to a number of users saying they'd been out of the country for this long, they were going to cut off, cut off, cut off, and they never did,
Yeah,
right? This time they seem a little bit more determined to do so.
yeah,
And, they seem to be sticking their heels in. I guess on the 17th of August, we'll all know what's going
yeah,
on.
yeah,
Um, the most challenging part is for people who are in French Polynesia or New Caledonia, because those are the only two territories in the Pacific which are not, you can't register an address in. If you're going to transfer, if you're going to spend 30 days in Fiji and 30 days in Vanuatu, 30 days in New Cal, it's fine. Even if, because you can move your address forward to the marina office wherever you're going, and get the next 30 days. But if you're going to be 60 days in Fiji, you're going to run out of puff halfway through. I'm waiting to see what happens, Vicky. I'm just waiting.
yeah, yeah. Same, we are too. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how the GPS stuff works? How it'll work with GPS?
Yes. So there's as I said earlier, there's a really good GPS system that we've got built into the Scout. It's accurate to less than a meter if you've got the sky open above you. But what we can also do is obviously link up to NEMA on your boat. So under settings, there's a section that says NEMA. If you go into NEMA, there's a section that says NEMA sources. And this is where you can either use your current internal, your local GPS, or use one of the settings with your data hub is the most common. Most people are using a data hub. Some people are using the yachting devices units. Some people are using their Vespers. There are a number of ways that people are linking onto these things. You link your Scout through to one of those devices, and this app here, the True Helm app, will basically, those of you who've got BNG equipment or BNG, I think is the only ones that have got it, will recognize this layout. So basically, you have dashboards down the left and right. You've got key information all over the place, and you've got your windrows in the middle. And if I had NEMA data flowing through here from my yacht, you'd get your wind angles, your tacking angles, and all those sorts of things in the center. You can set jar warnings behind you, so you'll see here and here. If the wind shifts below those, you start to get a jar warning come up, and then as it comes around to 180, the whole ring starts flashing red. and says, child alert, Will Robinson. And it's so from that point of view, it's really keeps an eye on where the wind is. I know on when I'm up in the cockpit at night and the wind is coming from behind, it's sometimes you kind of forget where the wind is and it starts to shift a bit. Accidental jibes are not impossible. So basically, the Scout is absorbing all the NMEA data off your network once it's linked to your data hub or whatever device you're using. And any of these side displays can be customized. So you can press the little cog on here, and whatever data your NMEA gateway is sensing from a sensor on your boat shows here, and you can basically change that window to reflect that piece of data. So you customize this to your heart's content. You can have depth, you can have the different, true wind, apparent wind, wind angles, the temperature of your motor, whatever information is coming through on your NEMA dashboard, on your NEMA bus, can be fashioned in here. And there's a button on the side of the Scout, which you won't see because I'm using a mouse. And when I press it, it switches between the navigation app, there, and press it again, and it switches. So you can very quickly just switch between the two. So what we've seen a number of our users do, I don't know if Mr. Dormer's on this call or not, but what he loves to do is he's got his Scout set up above his chart plotter in the cockpit, and on night duties, they just swing it 180 degrees on the bracket so they can sit with their back up underneath the Dodger and looking back, and they don't have to get up and have a look at the chart plotter the whole time, because I think at night when he's on passage they have that screen up, so they can see all the data, they can see the wind angles, they can see where they're going, they can see it, make sure the autopilot's still taking them in the right direction, without having to stand out in the weather near the helms. So these, as I said, when we started this, a lot of the way we designed this was based on our own experiences over the years that we've been cruising around the Pacific. What I will do, the Tides app, super useful. I don't know if it's can actually, I don't know a GPS signal here. Let's just see what it's going to do. No, I don't have a GPS signal where I am. But yeah, it doesn't know where I am, so it doesn't know where my nearby stations are. But you can basically get a tide chart for the next up to 7 days, and it's got all the lunar stuff and what have you. The Anchor Watch app works in a similar way. Basically, you point an arrow towards where you drop your anchor. It's doing the same thing to me. So if I go, yeah. So I can't, these are all linked through to your GPS, unfortunately. And
Can
in the
you,
office where I'm at.
with the anchor alarm, can you set it to send a text to you if you're off the boat?
No, you can't. But what I'm working on is to send a WhatsApp message.
Yeah, that would be cool, eh?
Yeah. Because a text relies on you having local phone or texting service,
Yeah,
whereas WhatsApp, as long as you've got data, you fine.
yeah,
So that's something that I am looking at, being able to message out through WhatsApp.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and the beauty of that integration as well, and so I can't promise when we'll have this, is that if you're in True Helm, for example, and you go to your depth, you'll be able to go in here and set an alert on a certain water depth that might come through on your WhatsApp as well. So once we get the WhatsApp integration working properly, we've had a number of people request that we make WhatsApp available as one of these 4 apps as well.
Yeah,
So that while you're at the helm, you can be messaging and receiving messages. But also, as I say, being able to actually send you messages wherever you are based on the data on your boat. So if your boat, it's very useful for an anchor alarm, but it's also very useful just for monitoring other things on your boat.
yeah, totally. I've got a couple of other questions here, Tony. I might just run through.
Yeah, far away.
How can you display a Garmin radar overlay on your Scout?
No, not today. I have a prototype working back in the office of radar, but we are probably still some time away on that.
Okay, that's cool. Could you add no foreign land as one of those apps?
I think I think we either have or we're just about to.
Okay.
No foreign land, not there at the moment. Yeah, we're about to. We're about to put no foreign land on there.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Will Zulu Waterways work with the Scout?
Will New Zealand waterways?
Zulu Waterways. I think it's
Oh,
another
Zulu.
Zulu.
Oh, I know Zulu. Yes, yes, yes. To be honest, I hadn't even thought about it. Um, I can't see why not. I'll put it on the testing list.
Okay.
Um, we just got to test the apps. If there's somebody from our office on this call, if you could just make a note of Zulu Waterways and have a chat to me about it.
Copy. Right. Dave's asked about the Apple set. We've talked about that. Um, is there a way that you can get it to talk to your Ray Marine chart plotter via internal Wi-Fi or onboard Wi-Fi?
I'm so glad you said that. Whoever asked that question gets a prize because look
Goes
at
to the top
this.
of the
So
class, Andrew.
whoever asked that question, they get a prize. So here, here is the routes that I've got saved on my. So these are routes that I've built up over the period when I'm moving around or what have you. Jackie won't let me move the boat in 5 miles without having a route. Uh, and so if we highlight a route, you'll see there's an export function up at the top here. If I press the export button, you can save that route onto an SD card. You can save it into a USB drive. You can save it. You can put it directly onto a BNG chart plotter. So this was actually work that I did in
Oh,
Newcastle 2 months ago while I was up there. And it's a BNG chart plotter because I've got a BNG chart plotter. It'll work on a Simrad chart plotter as well. So basically, if the chart plotter and your Scout are on the same Wi-Fi network, the Scout will find the BNG chart plotter and it will automatically put that file onto your BNG chart plotter for you.
wow, that's cool.
Um, our intention is to do the same for Raymarine, Garmin, and Furuno. They're each of them more difficult than the Navico gear. BNG and Simrad is particularly easy for us to work with. They leave a couple of little back doors open specifically for us to use. Raymarine, more challenging. But what we're actually doing with these, and this is also something, oh, you'll see here. So here's, you see the bottom option here is Navionics. If you use this Navionics option, it'll actually load that route directly into the Navionics app that's on the Scout.
That's cool.
So we're putting the Raymarine, or we're testing, I can't say putting, we're busy testing the Raymarine app, which I believe has the ability to move from the app onto your Raymarine chart plotter. So that what you would then do is underneath the Navionics here, there'd be another button that would say Raymarine. You'd press that, it would then load that route into the Raymarine app on the Scout. That would then link to your Raymarine chart plotter and you'd send it through.
Okay, Ollie, are you trying to say something? Because we can only hear like alien talk.
I am. I
Oh,
am.
okay.
You
So it's
keep
like
meeting me on the system. Um, to get onto your own very sharp output, the easy thing to do is to download the avionics and then
I
use the
can't hear you,
Raspberry.
Ollie. Ollie, you sound
Yeah,
like
I
Ollie.
can't hear him either.
You sound like Darth Vader, Ollie.
Oh,
I don't know why. I'm going to mute you again, Ollie, but don't take it personally. Just maybe type your response. uh, yeah, no, that didn't sound great. But anyway,
He actually sounded like he was sounded like he was underwater.
He did actually. Yeah. Hopefully he's not.
No, no, I was going to say his hair's dry, but hey.
Someone's asked if you can have iSailor app on the Scout.
Ice Sailor.
iSailor.
Uh, that's one we haven't. Look, what happens is we get lots of requests for apps on there, and it takes some time for us to test them. So we always want to hear what apps people want. And what we're very likely to do in the very near future on our Facebook page is do a survey. Because what we want to do is we want to put effort into testing apps that most people want to use.
Yeah.
So if we find that, 100 people want to get, I don't know, Spotify on there, all right, then we can test that. And we put the effort in and we can make 100 people happy. So it's really, from our point of view, there's new features and things coming out every single week on this. And I'd strongly, I don't know how, as I say, if any Scout owners that are on this call, one thing I would say is please update your Scout at least once a week. If you go to, I'm just going to show you, if you go to this top menu here and you come down and it says updates and you go check all, right? I'm a good boy. I'm up to date all the way down. So if you've got a Scout, please make sure it's up to date because we're putting small bug fixes out every week. The product is new. This was literally developed in the last 6 to 12 months. So we're fixing little bugs that we find all the time, but we're also adding really nice new features all the time. So in fact, what happens is when you do a check all, if there's a new, say this one says there's an update, Vortex Nav, underneath here, it'll say release notes. There'll be a little button underneath here that says release notes. And when you press that button, it'll pop up a list of the new stuff that's in there. All right.
Cool.
I strongly recommend that when you do an update, click on that and find out what's new. Sam, a member of our team back in our office, is going to be putting out a more regular email. I gave him a whole heap of new stuff that went out this last week, earlier today. And he's going to be sending out an email to all the Scout owners, just drawing their attention to the most important ones and the ones that we feel are most valuable to them. But there are 5, 10, 15 new things in every release we're putting out at the moment.
Yeah, that's cool because it's hard to keep up, isn't it?
And it's all that stuff is coming from feedback. It's people telling us what apps they want on the tablet, what's working for them, what we can adjust, and we like to think that we're reasonably responsive to those.
Absolutely. Oh, could you go back and show us the measuring tool, Tony?
The what tool?
Measuring tool.
No, let me show you. So the measuring tool that we have today is always measuring from the boat.
Right. Okay.
So, if I'm going to come all the way from Europe back to my boat, because I don't have a G. If I just press the button up top here, it would take me straight back. But wherever you tap, so if I tap out on barrier here, so you get a red dot, and it tells me down the bottom here, the very bottom line in the left corner here says that is the GPS coordinates of where I tapped.
Yeah.
And it's 41 miles away. Now,
cool.
what we will do is we'll put another measuring tool, and we haven't worked out quite where you'll go click and you'll go click, and it'll give you the bearing and distance between the two.
Yeah, cool.
That's also on the wish list. So that'll be one of the things, as I say, that will come out in one of our weekly releases.
Okay, perfect. Chantel's asked about the user guide, and Sam's advised her where to get it, so that's all good.
Yeah, just so that's a lot of people miss this actually, is on the main menu here, right down the bottom, there it says help. And there's actually a reasonably comprehensive help system here where you can search for things. You can, it's a whole, there's chapters on waypoints and how to use True Helm and how to use all the different apps.
Oh, great.
So it's quite a comprehensive help system there. that we
Perfect.
try as hard as possible to keep up to date.
Yeah, I bet it must be difficult when you're changing everything all the time.
Exactly, exactly.
Ollie's asked, are you going to alter the color of the vessel icons to make the boat more visible? The current blue boats are hard to see on a blue background.
That's brilliant. So when you go into settings and you go to my boat, down the bottom here, down the bottom, let me get down there, you will see that we allow you to change your boat. And Ollie's right. Other than the classic sloop, which is kind of brown, and the teak classic yacht, you could always go for a bright orange rubber duck that we got down the bottom left here. That's normally pretty easy to spot. But yeah, we can do that. You can move this, and you can make the icon bigger and smaller, but you can't change its color. So yeah, maybe we need some red ones and orange ones. That's a
Yeah,
good call, Ollie. That's not too difficult for us to do. So if I now go back here and I go back to navigation, you'll see that it's reasonably easy to see. There's my big yellow rubber duck there now.
yeah.
Ollie, go for the duck. It'll work in the short term.
Ollie also asked, can you explain how the new feature works if and when you lose GPS connectivity to let you know that your position is not accurate?
Yes. So this is we've added quite recently, because often when a couple of things happen, your NEMA data is inconsistent. In other words, the NEMA data comes and goes and comes and goes a bit, and you've linked it through to that. I know some people have issues with data hubs over the last couple of months, with a couple of them being a little intermittent. We've had this actually from 3 or 4 different sources. But also, if you lose your Wi-Fi at the last moment or what have you, we've got under settings on this main menu now, we have a notifications option here. You can see there. And when you go there, you can set a system-wide alarm. Now, thanks to Ollie, because he was one of the people who drove this to get this feature. You can basically set the alarms both visually and audible. So if your GPS is being received, but it's not being used for any reason, an orange notification comes up on the top of the navigation screen, and it'll make a beeping sound every 4 or 5 seconds, if that's the case. If you lose your GPS altogether, all right, a red flashing thing comes at the top of the screen, and it makes a more irritating sound. But you can turn these on and off. So in other words, if, for example, if the GPS received and not used, you can turn the sound off but have the visual. But then when it goes red, you can. Now the idea is that with this new notification system that we've put in here, I think literally this was put out in the last 2 weeks. We will add more and more alarms and alerts in here for different things, just to make it safer for users. Because if you are in a situation where you're likely to lose your GPS signal, and you're heading towards a reef opening or something, it's very important that your attention is drawn to that.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a really good tip. Um, Jeff's asked about the warranty on the Scout, and Sam's replied that the standard warranty is a year, but happy for people to get in contact if they're having any issues.
Totally. I mean, we work directly with a factory that manufactures these. So we worked with that factory on the design and getting them out. So it's we're touch wood. They've behaved exceptionally well out in the field. The one thing I would say is they are IP65 rated for dust and water. Which, as I said earlier, that means they can take a jet of water. So you take a wave over the helm, you're fine. But that's as long as you've got the little rubber caps on the side closed. Our advice to all Scout users is, if you're charging at the helm, underneath the Scout, directly beneath it, And what I might do, okay, back here. So directly in the center here, underneath the Scout, is what they call a pogo port. And Scouts are designed to charge off their pogo ports when the weather is inclement. So that's like a waterproof way of charging. It's a big, wide magnetic. Anybody who's had one of the older Apples that used to have the magnetic charging things on the side, it's the same type of thing as that. You sort of hold it close, it clips in, and because it's facing upwards, water can't get in, and it sort of seals. And that's the most watertight way. On the right-hand side here is where you plug a USB charging cable in. And I would highly advise against charging through that side cable when you're at the helm. Every Scout that we ship has one pogo charging cable and a couple of USB charging cables in the packaging. The USB is fine when you're down below, when you drive, when you're anywhere, like anything, your phone or your tablet, your iPad, whatever it is, charge away, that's fine. But if you're going to be using your Scout at the helm when the weather could be iffy, make sure that all the little rubber compartments down the side are sealed. That's what they're there for. They're there to keep the water out, and that you're charging off the bottom port. The other advice I'd give is that if you want to get the best out of your battery life on a Scout, make sure you don't run the screen too brightly all the time. These devices have got a 1000 nit screen. What I'm going to do, so if we come up to the screen brightness here, I'm on auto at the moment. So if you're on auto, basically, the brighter it is, I'm putting my hand over the corner of the tablet as we speak. So it thinks I'm in a dark room, and you'll see it's dropped the brightness to 1%. And if I take my hand off again, it pops back up because I'm in a light room. If you turn that off, you can set it wherever you want. If you set it at about, I don't know, 30%, you'll get 6 to 8 hours battery life out of your Scout. If you set it right up at the top and you put the ultra switch on, right, your Scout will last you about 2 or 3 hours on its battery. That's because with the ultra off, that's giving you at 100%, it's giving you about 700 nits of brightness. When it's at the top and you press the ultra, it goes straight to 1000 nits. So middle of the day, sun over your shoulder, glary, horrible day like you have up in Fiji. That's perfect for that. But when you go back down or you're going to be in the shade, drop it down and think about the fact that when ultra is off, you want to be at around 30%. It's still quite readable, but manage that, and you're managing your battery length.
No, that's a great tip. And while you're in there, Marcus was asking today about the words, how to get the words bigger, because his eyesight isn't good enough.
Yeah, I know. Some of the new software we put out today, 2 days ago, we started to make the lettering bigger everywhere. So that's something which we've got to change, and we're going through app by app. One of our developers is literally, that's his full-time job at the moment, making the text bigger.
Maybe you could just
Trying to think.
Some glasses.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example. I think because we've also just updated the way that the Wi-Fi control works. So this Wi-Fi control is brand new as of last week, and that's all much bigger and easier to use now. We're slowly working. This is the battery. It's still got very small text in here. But yeah, we're literally working through each page now, each part of the app, and making the text bigger.
Very cool. I'm just reading through. Sam's been very diligent answering lots of the questions before we've even had a chance to get to them. Thanks, Sam. Someone's asked, this is a large unit. Is there a smaller, compact unit available? I don't know if you'd want it any smaller, actually. I quite like having mine quite big.
Yeah, us old fellas with bad eyesight find the bigger the better. No, look, we do have what we call a Scout Mini under development. We have a couple of them floating around the office at the moment. It's got a 8-inch screen instead of this 10-inch screen. I can't give you a date in terms of when it's going to be released. It's being tested when we're not developing new features and software. It's something we'd dearly like to get out. But let's say that, I don't know. Sam would kill me if I gave an idea. I know he'd hunt me down. I'd have to hide from him in the office tomorrow.
There you go, Andrew. There's one coming, but I quite like mine being quite big because you get that
Yeah,
kind of.
no, there is a smaller one coming.
Okay, great, but no date. Dave says, I love my Scout. It's literally the only tool I use out here now. There you go. That's awesome. I love mine as well. I'm
Thank you.
using it a lot. I've updated my Scout, but I'm not seeing the ENC as an option under base map. Could you show us how to find that again?
Yes. So under base maps, right down the bottom, you'll. So if I go out a bit, I'm going to go down to Auckland Harbour because it's some. Give me a second. You see all these navigation overlays that we got on here. These are
Yeah.
the channel. That there is the Open CMAP overlay. So you
Oh,
can turn
cool.
that.
Okay.
You can turn that off and on again.
Oh, I want that too.
The one below that is the ENCs.
That's super cool. Super cool.
And we've turned that on for everybody with a blue water and coastal subscriptions. So as I say, because we're working with the company who supplies them, and they said, yeah, fully boots and test them at the moment. So that's what we're doing. So and it would be good to get feedback from people in terms of how they like it.
Okay, hopefully you can find that now, Todd. I just did an update of all mine before I started this too, so maybe might need to do another one. But battery life, I think we've answered. And recharge. Mine has been taking a wee long to recharge, but maybe that's because I'm using the the USB one as opposed to the other bigger charger. I might try that one. Do you reckon,
Yeah,
Tony?
give it a go. As I say, you get quite a satisfying sort of clunk as it goes on the bottom.
Yeah.
And it does tend to give, just a good solid continual charge. At our helm, where our Scout lives, we've installed one of those high-powered sealed USB connectors. And our Scout, literally, we were in Newcastle earlier this year for 4 or 5 weeks, and I don't think the Scout came off the helm. It just sat there on the charger the whole time.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. I might have to get mine wired up like that. Um, er, Jim's asked about how many images you can download for offline, and Sam's explained that it depends on the subscription plan. Do you want to explain a bit more about that, Tony?
Yeah. So what I'll do, let me go to somewhere where I can download something. We'll go to the noisies again. I keep on going back there, but hey. So when you're doing the download, Sam's right. So each subscription layer, so you take a step back. We've got these license agreements in place with the various satellite providers. So we pay the satellite providers by what they call a tile. So a tile is a small piece of the satellite image. And the more you zoom in, the more tiles you use. So we allocate, depending on whether which package you're on, which subscription package you're on. Sam might be able to type into the chat how many. I think it's 300,000 on the blue water. You get 300,000 tiles to use in the 3 months that your subscription is running. So if I now go to the download and I draw a download area around the noisies, you'll see that it says there 12 tiles, all right, at zoom level 15. So if I say finish, this once again, I'm falling foul of the previous criticism that our text is too small. Down,
You can't read
down here, this
it.
weeny tiny little message down here says
The
that
small
is
print.
25 tiles of the 2.9 million tiles that I have available to me. Now, that's 20. If I go, and that's taking, if I downloaded that Zoom 5 to 15, that's the 25 tiles. If I go plus there and I now go to Zoom 16, that's become 61 tiles. If I go bigger again, that's become 161 tiles. So you can see how many tiles you're going to use before you actually download it. If you want to download the whole of Fiji, it'd probably take you 3 million tiles. But what we're trying to encourage people to do is think differently. Because when you were using OpenCPN, if you used OpenCPN, or you were, getting your files, your files downloaded off Bruce's chart plotter, you needed the whole of Fiji, even though you weren't ever going to cover the whole of Fiji. So the way that you use your tile balance is a little bit different. You think ahead about where you're going to be for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month, and you basically mark that area out and you download it. And before you download it, you will see. So I want to go, let's go somewhere. Let's go. All right. I'm going to let's do the Hauraki Gulf. So if I go to downloads, and I'm literally going to just take, not out to downloads. I'm going to go there. Oh, was it? Cancel. So I'm just going to go to the inner Gulf. I won't go all the way down to Thames. We'll go around and then do the inner harbour. So if you look at that area, that's 2,480 square miles of image, which is just shy of 7,000 tiles. All right, at Zoom level 15. If I finish, and I say let's take that to Zoom level 16, that's now 36,000 tiles. So that might put, and it's 1.4 gigabits of data that's going to be stored on your local tablet. So if you're going to be doing a certain area of Fiji, you want the Yasawas, you want the Mamanukas, you want, I don't know, Tavanui, you want the coastline around Savu. You could pull those all down separately, and each one lives as a separate download. And for each one, you get a separate download pull along the bottom here.
Right.
So it's and you'll notice that because I've got, which one? I've got that one pressed at the moment. All right. It's telling me on the left here that download was done on that day. These are the GPS coordinates of it. That's the Zoom levels we pulled down, how many tiles it was. And in fact, if you go onto your portal, so when you've got a Scout online, you create your account where you manage a subscription and everything. It keeps a track of your downloads there as well. And you can see each of these there as well. So in terms of that sizing, it's, as I said, the blue water, I think, is 300,000 tokens to use in 3 months. I think the expedition plan gives you 1 million tokens or close to that, 900,000 tokens. So, the blue water one is kind of sized for cruisers who are traveling around and basically just reaching out ahead of them for the next 2-3 weeks, downloading what they need, and then carrying on.
Cool. Okay. So I think we've been going for quite a while now. There's still quite a few other wee questions and stuff here. Is it best? I think we might wrap this up, and maybe just if people have got sort of like one-on-one kind of questions, they should.
Absolutely.
How should they get in touch with you, Tony?
What I suggest is there are a couple of ways they could do it. We've got a new Vortex WhatsApp number. So what I suggest is anybody who wants to get in touch with us, Sam, do you want to jump on the call? And Sam's handling a lot of that for us now, and it'd be good to know how he wants to be communicated with. I don't want to drop him in the
I
in the
think
deep.
he said he's had to hop off about sort of 10 minutes ago, so he might not be on
Okay,
here.
all right.
But we can
What I
we
said,
can share that with everyone, and I've got all their
yeah.
email addresses. So yeah, we could do
Well,
it.
if yeah, I mean, even if you share the email addresses with us, we're more than happy to put out a way of conversing with us. One
Yep.
of the things you can do, and a lot of people don't know this either, is on the Scout itself. If you've got a Scout, you can go down to the bottom here to feedback, and you can actually place feedback. And one of the things you can do is suggestions and questions and stuff. So
Oh, cool.
anybody who's got a Scout, if you fill this in, it actually arrives on our desktop in the office. What you could also do is email support@vortexmarine.com.
Yep.
And you can drop that into the chat for us, Vicky. It's support@vortexmarine.com, and that's monitored on all business days. And Andrew on our team monitors that, and he gets back to people pretty quickly. So yeah, and we'll put out our WhatsApp. Our Facebook page is another great place to contact us. Yeah,
No, that sounds great. I think what we might do is I'll put up a recording of this and I'll email it out to everyone, and we can add those contact
yeah. You let
details.
us. Yeah, yeah. When you send that email out, Sam will have decided what's the best way, and we can make sure everybody can contact us.
Awesome. Cool. Everyone's got to go, and you got
Cool.
getting fidgety, I think. But that was amazing. I've learned so
No, it's all
many
good.
things. I
And
can't
so,
wait to play with that new ENC thing. That's going to be awesome.
yeah, have a play and let us know. Oh, as I say, we like to hear the bad as much as we like to hear the good. So, because we can't make this any better unless people tell us how they'd like it to be.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's just been such a useful tool, and I'm loving playing with it. And I've definitely got some new tips on how to play with it even more. I'm going to be track practicing, sending my tracks out to my chart plotter and stuff too. So, thank you,
Brilliant, brilliant.
Tony. Very useful. Thanks everyone for joining us. And yeah, I'll send a recording to this out later. And hopefully you've all learned something new tonight. It's amazing. We'll keep in touch. See you
Thanks
later.
all.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.